Real excited to talk to the next gentleman on the Sports Card Shop guest line. They're the newest sponsors to Sports Card Nation as well, and I don't want to make them wait with a long intro. But the president of Robert Edward Auctions, Mr. Brian Dwyer. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks for having me, John. Good to be here.
So we got a lot, we got a lot to talk about, but I know it's the boring kind of standard podcast question, but I know you got your start like me, very young. I believe you were six. Kind of talk about your journey into the hobby, where it started, and sort of that timeline, if you will.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. My origin is not too dissimilar from a lot of people that are in this hobby. I got my first pack of baseball cards as a 6 year old, and I opened them up, and for some reason, thankfully, I just became enamored with them. And so my parents kept feeding that obsession, and it became baseball cards became a very logical, natural gift for me to get at birthdays or Christmas or special occasions. And so, as a very young child, I was getting Topps cards, I was building sets, I was sorting them by name and player and team. And it was about when I was 12 years old that I got my first taste of vintage. My dad was in an antique shop and found some early 50s Bowman Brooklyn Dodger cards. And he picked them up and he brought them home. And that just kind of set the wheels in motion about who were these guys? Why do they look so different than the cards that I'm collecting here in the 90s? And that really kind of started me on this path towards vintage, where I've been, for the last 25 years or so. So very innocuous start, got a pack of baseball cards to probably keep me quiet as a 6 year old. And here we are.
Yeah, no doubt. And a man after my own heart with vintage. We all know there's obvious reasons why I like it. It's just it's harder to find, obviously, and with different generations of ball players, and it's something that as a dealer, I still set up at shows, and I do have modern. But when it comes to like my PC, you're definitely going to see a lot more vintage there than not. And for obvious reasons. So I know you worked at SGC before, heading to the auction house route. What did your time at SG? I mean, was it a good primer for what you do now? Was it a good segue?
Absolutely. I consider SGC to be the best experience I've had in my professional career. I mean, I started there as an intern. I actually got college credit for working at SGC, which was amazing. I was very lucky to go to school only about 20 minutes from their headquarters. And it was a crash course on everything hobby related. These grading companies, they're grading Donruss, they're grading Pokemon, they're grading T206 Wagners. So I got to see a little bit of everything. I got to meet dealers, I got to meet collectors. I was fortunate enough to travel to trade shows in the US and Canada with SGC during my time there. And so, I spent about 3.5 years there learning the ins and outs of the grading world, and I loved it. And I missed the buying and the selling, which is how I ended up going the auction house route. When you work for these authentication companies, there's limits that are placed on how you can buy and sell, obviously, because you're supposed to be a neutral arbiter. But yeah, absolutely invaluable. Still do a lot of business with SGC to this day. And I think they're a great company. And I look back fondly on my time there.
Yep, and obviously right now you're the president of REA. Talk about kind of you had a similar start there. You kind of started and worked your way up into the position. Obviously, you're in now. If you want
Yeah.
to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I left SGC, I did so because, like I said, I missed that buying and selling. I was very active on eBay when I was in high school and college. I loved the idea as a kid growing up in upstate New York. I could buy and sell with guys in Florida or California or Texas, whatever. And so I really wanted to scratch that itch. And this was 2010. And at that time, there really were only two options if you wanted to sell cards. You could do it yourself on eBay, or you could go to these big auction houses that produce these big, large catalogs, and they catered to $10,000 and $100,000 cards. And so I looked at the landscape and I said, there's nobody that's really offering the best of both worlds. There's no one that's providing an auction house experience to people with $500 or $1,000 cards or even $100 cards. And so I started a company that did just that. You could consign your cards, you could have that auction house experience, you could have the presentation, and we started everything at $10. And so we'd have items that went for, 12, $15, and then we'd have items that went for $50,000. And I did that for about a year and a half until I caught the attention of the founder of Robert Edward Auctions. And at that point in time, they were doing one auction a year. They had 2 employees, one auction a year, and he wanted to expand. And he saw the writing on the wall that one auction a year wasn't sustainable. And I tell people I had a very good thing going with my own company, but it was like the Yankees called and they said, "Hey, we're playing the Red Sox tomorrow. We need you to start in center field. Do you want to join?" And here I am playing minor league ball. And so I jumped at the opportunity and I sold my company, which actually still operates to this day under that new ownership. And I came to work for REA. And that was 2012. I started as an acquisitions director. I was responsible for bringing in material. I did a lot of operational processing, writing for the company at that time. And then in 2016, I took over as president. And hard to believe, but 7 years later, here I am. And I love it. We have 23 employees now. So we're much larger than when I
Yeah.
joined. And we're doing, last year we did 12 auctions. So really expanding the offerings and bringing the best of REA to as many people as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, in 7 years, you've grown the company exponentially, employee wise, offering wise, more auctions, all that great stuff. Kudos to you and your team as well. One of the questions I get asked and I can't really answer, and I've thought about, with other auction houses and what. How competitive is that? Is there communication? Is it cutthroat? Is somewhere in between? Kind of, you don't have to mention names per se, but kind of that landscape. How does for those that don't know and wonder, like some people have asked me, and I've wondered myself, how does that go?
Yeah. So look, there's a lot of companies that are holding auctions. There's a lot of opportunities to consign your cards to various auction companies. I think it is very competitive. I think within our sphere of kind of close competitors, we have this friendly rivalry, right? So the hobby's small enough where we all know each other. We all want to win. But at the end of the day, we're all setting up at the same trade shows. We're all going to the same conventions, and we all have to see each other. So it's not cutthroat in the sense that I don't talk to my competitors or I speak ill of them. But at the end of the day, we all want to win. And we have different specialties than maybe some of our other competitors. We have tremendous relationships that help us draw in incredible material that maybe our competitors don't have. So the fortunate thing for us is that there's a tremendous amount of material to go around. And, just as I can speak for our business, it's been growing very steadily because of the quality and the caliber of the product and the service that we're able to offer. So very competitive landscape, but I think we do a lot to differentiate ourselves. And I think that, that comes out in our results. I think our results is really what earns us a lot of our business.
Yeah, no doubt. We've seen the market kind of, calm down, reset a little bit, with what's going on, obviously, in macroeconomics. Yet, at that higher end level, we're still seeing records be broken. We're still
Yeah.
seeing very strong sales. Um, Obviously, one of the obvious reasons is if someone's spending that kind of money, they're sort of less affected, let's say, to what's going on economy wise and real world time stuff. But what else maybe attributes to that strong? It can't be just that. I'm sure that's a big factor. But what other factors is why that some of that upper echelon is still so strong? Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
think I think it really comes down to quality and availability. So I think a lot of the people that are playing in that realm understand that if you want something that is super rare, whether it's a condition rarity or just supply is low, you have to strike when you have the opportunity. And so we're seeing items that are coming up for sale, and they're getting record prices, because that might be the only opportunity you have. And so social media is an example of the opportunity that the industry has to kind of showcase those items and really make sure that people are aware of these very rare items that are coming up for sale. And then the companies and even the collectors themselves sometimes can trumpet those numbers. And I think it really just comes down to opportunity. People recognize that you may not have another opportunity to get some of this material, and you're going to have to strike.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's obviously one of the reasons it's strong. We've seen the last few years we've seen fractionals kind of make some headlines. Kind of your thoughts on that? Does that hurt what you do? Is it really don't affect either way? Like, what's the place in the hobby for that, and what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I think fractionalization actually has a home in the hobby. I think it's a very interesting opportunity for some people who can't go out and write $100,000 check or even a $10,000 check, to participate and to claim ownership on some of these very rare and special items. As far as whether or not it affects what we do, no. I mean, I think it accentuates what we do, because you're going to have potentially some collectors that are auction averse or risk averse, and they would never consign their items to an auction, but they can go to a fractional platform and they can stipulate their price, they can stipulate their terms, and they can have that measure of security. So I think it's an exciting time. I think it's still in its infancy in our industry. I think it's more developed in some other collectible classes, but no, I like it. I like the idea. I like the premise. And I'm excited to kind of see how it plays out over the next couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt. I've dabbled in it a little bit. Like you said, it's a great opportunity. Probably a card I'm not going to be able to afford in full. And in just a funny sort of way, bragging, right? Say, hey, I own a very very small percentage of this. One of those cards is that well, it's now off the fractional market, but was that the Baltimore News Babe Ruth
Yeah.
there that. So it's just it's kind of fun to say, yeah, I had an infinitesimal ownership in an iconic card, and for that realm, and it has its a place, and there's if you do it right, you can even make a few bucks in the process if that's where your mindset is. You guys just had a great talk about winning. You guys just had a great January auction. Recap that, some of the items, what they brought, and then we'll get into even the what's going on with February. There's a little time left even too for those that want to get in their last minute bids. But kind of recap January's auction for REA, which was tremendous.
Yeah, so that was our first Encore auction of the year. And for anyone that's not familiar, these Encore auctions are held 7 or 8 times a year. They are held in months in which we don't have one of our premier catalog auctions. So this January auction had some great items in it. It had a Jordan Fleer rookie in a 9 that brought almost 20,000. It had a 98 Peyton PSA 10 rookie that brought over 10,000. It had a signed 52 Tops Maze that brought over $15,000. So great, high quality, high caliber items. And what I think the Encores are most known for, and the thing that excites me most about them, is the variety. You're going to get 5-figure. We've even had multiple 6-figure items in those auctions, and then you're going to get that 56 Tops Common and an 8 for $40 that set builder needs. So usually 3,000, 3,500 lots to choose from, and a tremendous variety. The February auction, like you mentioned, it closes this Sunday. Another great auction, and a lot of highlights in it. We've got a Chamberlain rookie in a 7. We've got 53 Mantle in a 6. We've got some rareback T206s. We've got just a lot of good quality Mantle Ruth Gehrig, Jackie Robinson type cards that are available this month. So should be something for everyone. I mean, there's tickets in there, there's photos, there's autographs, there's a wide variety of stuff.
Yep, and if you're listening to this on show release date Friday or soon after on Saturday, you still got time left to head that way and get those last minute bids and maybe pick up something really nice. You know, we've seen the market sort of change some things. You know, I think I'm a little older than you, Brian. I remember when I was younger, and people got autographs on sports cards. Right? It was like never have the rookie card signed. You're ruining it, right? You're writing on the rookie card. It's not worth anything other than the autograph. But we've seen that sort of opinion change, and autograph rookie cards are a huge deal. I mean, there's a dealer at the National and whatever other that's all that's in that gentleman's showcases, and
Yep.
we've seen obviously prices of these reached their own astronomical marks. And so, what once was sort of frowned upon now is a huge collectible market. Why do you think that's sort of changed? I remember being younger, it was always like use a second year card or use another card other than a rookie year card. But obviously, now, especially on the vintage side, it's completely went the other way. What do you attest to that sort of opinion change in the hobby?
Yeah, so I think the hobby kind of looked at the data and realized how tough it was to get these signed rookie cards in really high grade. I mean, the combination of a perfect signature on a perfect card is quite rare. And you've got even modern players like Ricky Henderson or Ken Griffey, where getting a 10-10 is not an easy feat. And so I think the hobby looked at the data and looked at the population reports and said, okay, this is worthy of paying a premium and I can't replicate this myself. And not for nothing, too, these players are charging considerable amount of money to sign anything, especially compared to 10, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, I grew up going to shows in Westchester County, New York, and maybe the highest fee you'd see for an autograph was $20. And now you're getting I saw someone say that Patrick Mahomes is expected to come out at $1,500 or $2,000 for his
Wow.
next signing. So I think the hobby's looking at this and saying, okay, it's the rookie cards have appreciated in value, the players have wised up, they're charging more for their signature, and then the combination, it's tough to replicate, so it's worthy of a premium.
Yeah, no doubt. It's something you forget about, but you made a great point with what these athletes charge for appearing at a show or a private signing even, and putting their autograph on whatever whether it be a card or a piece of memorabilia. Those numbers have increased as has the demand for them. And like you said, I remember those same shows, right? 20, $30, almost no matter who it was, the 30, $40 was the bigger star and $20 was the lesser star, if you will. And times are obviously different now. Like you said, the players, the athletes see what some of this stuff's going for on the secondary market, and you can't really blame them with that being the case to say, hey, let me get a bigger piece of the pie. You mentioned tickets too. That's something I'm starting to get into myself. I think it's really uh, I don't know if undervalued is the right word, but I think they're underrated for sure. Because
Yeah.
when you think I still am a sports guy. I was a sports kid, would go to baseball, football games, and right, this is before now hard copy tickets are actually few and far between. They got to kind of scan your phone, but back then you had that hard copy ticket, and they either just they looked at it or ripped a quarter section off. You kind of just put it in your pocket once you got kind of to your seat. It gets all crumpled up. Later on, you get home, and most of the time, where's it wind up? Right, the trash. Game's over. You got in. You saw the event, and so I think a lot of these tickets. and I'm assuming you agree. You know, a lot of these tickets don't exist; they were just thrown out after the event's over. People, you know, they weren't viewed in the same respect, even as a trading card. At least a trading card had that intrinsic value. Hey, I can trade with my friends. It has my favorite player on it. The ticket was just a ticket or means to get through the gate to your seat and
Yep.
watch the event. Once that was over, you kind of threw it away. And so when I see these tickets, you know, it's if there was 30,000 people, let's say, at that event, how many tickets realistically survived that day's event? So when it become even if it was like a no hitter or something like that, people still didn't know, you know, think that I'm going to save my ticket. Some people did, obviously, but not in the same vein we would today. And so I think tickets in a way are even scarcer than cards on some levels, just because people aren't thinking of them in the same vein. And so I think the ticket market, and more people I think are thinking like this because we've seen that market get hotter and prices get higher and demand get higher. Just your thoughts on the auction side with the ticket market and that sort of line of thinking.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I'm very similar in the fact that I would go to all these events as a kid, whether they were shows or concerts or games, and I never saved anything. I mean, the memory of being at the game was more valuable, more important to me than the piece of paper that let me get in. But you're right that the hobby has started to realize, and I think it goes back to what I was talking about, looking at the data, looking at the supply of these things, and say, you know what, these are not insignificant, and they're tough, and how many of them could really exist? You know, debuts have become a very hot part of our industry. We sold a Mickey Mantle debut for six figures. Jackie Robinson's debut has sold for six figures. Jordan's debut has sold for six figures. And then even lesser guys, you know, we got nearly $20,000 for Roy Campanella and Pee Wee Reese's debut in our last auction. So it's very exciting. I think it reminds people of some of these significant events that they were either at or wished they could be at. And we're seeing it even transcend into modern. You know, we have in this spring auction coming up a ticket from LeBron James's first game in Los Angeles. So he goes into LA as a rookie, and now 20 years later, he's breaking the all-time scoring record for LA, or you know, with
Yeah,
LA. So you know, it's kind of an interesting full circle ticket that I think will really draw collectors' attention. We've sold tickets to Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game for $20,000 or more, and you know that's something where it's an iconic event. People talk about it. You see the pictures of Wilt holding the ball that says 100, and how many people really saved their tickets? I mean, we've seen a dozen, maybe at most.
yeah,
Um, so I think they're very cool. I think it's an underappreciated part of the hobby, but I think it's caught a lot of attention recently. I think the some of these big prices really do help shine a light on it. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting, and I think it will be interesting to see how it continues to evolve, given that, like you said, teams are not producing tickets anymore. So you know, people are scanning them on their phone. They're getting you know, swiped in, and there's no such thing as a hard copy ticket. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But I think you're right. I think ticket collecting is something to keep an eye on.
yeah, no doubt. And you made a great point with like a lot of those debut tickets, right? The first appearance of that athlete on the professional level. In a sense, they become rookie cards, like an additional type of rookie card attached to, you know, you mentioned like a Mantle debut ticket. We all know the 51 Bowman, and now you have sort of the ticket equivalent of a 51 Bowman with a debut ticket. It's sort of like if I'm a Mantle collector, I'm gonna, you know, and I can add that along with a 51 Bowman. I probably already, hopefully, own. You know, that would be, you know, you're getting, I think, crossover, right? You're getting
Yeah,
people who maybe never thought about even collecting tickets. Like, hey, I would have never thought I'd be doing this, and here I'm buying my favorite player or my idol's debut ticket because it means something. You know, it means something to me to own it, have it on my desk or wherever, you know, you might keep
yeah.
it. So
And
you
and it,
get,
and it was there, right? I mean,
yeah,
especially in these ticket stubs. I mean, maybe full tickets you could argue might not have been at the game, but you know, Jackie Robinson makes his major league debut. That ticket was in
Yeah,
the building. So
yeah.
it's a very cool spin on these really iconic moments.
Yeah, I'm a Jackie Robinson guy growing up in Brooklyn, even though, my dad lived in Ebbets Field. I'd love be not in the budget, but be an item I'd love. I always joke if I would. Someone asked me, John, if you ever won like the Powerball or the Mega Millions, what item like in the hobby that you can't buy now would you put on the list? And that one would probably make it. But like you said, how many of those really exist? You don't even see them that often. You're getting into that single double digits, I think, rather than more with cards where you hundreds or thousands of them. So I just think it's a market that I think more people who maybe you have all the cards of your favorite player, you have the run, but now you want some historic, maybe a historic home run game, the debut ticket, right? You can actually start to fill in other holes. So you get that sort of crossover, I think,
Yeah.
with that. So we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be fun to watch. You've handled obviously some iconic cards. Just to speak to some of those that off the top that stick out off the top of your head.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to start with the granddaddy of them all. So we sold in August of 2021 the T126 Honus Wagner graded a 3 by SGC for what was then a world record for a sports card, $6.6 million. And the T126 Wagner, obviously one of the most famous, if not the most famous cards of all time. It's a card that REA has been privileged to handle more of than anybody else currently active in the industry. And we've set records along the way for the T126 Wagner when we've sold them. I mean, we've been very fortunate in that respect, and it was very special to handle that $6.6 million one about a year and a half ago. Baltimore News Ruth, you mentioned earlier that you had participated in the fractional ownership. I mean, we've handled not all of them, but nearly all of the ones that are known at some point in time. We've handled the more common, but still not super common, Sporting News Ruth rookie. We sold a PSA 7 4 or 5 years ago for $600,000, which at the time blew away the record. And now today that would be a $2.5–3 million card. So there's been a lot of great stuff that's passed through here. 86 Fleer Jordans we handle by the dozens. 52 Mantles are always special. It's a card that means a lot to me. You see it over my shoulder. That's
Yeah.
a card that I grew up idolizing. We handled the best E93 set of all time, and we broke it last year for nearly $2 million. And then we handle cards that people probably have never heard about, but they're very rare, they're very cool, and they're special for us. When we get that call, we just recently got a call from someone that had a trading card from the 1860s that we've never seen before. So getting that in, doing the research, getting it authenticated is very fun. We break up T126 sets all the time, Gaudi sets, Crackerjack sets that come from collectors or non-collectors. So we're really fortunate that there's almost nothing in the trading card world that hasn't passed through here.
It's funny. I was going to ask you: is there something that you haven't, auctioned or been involved with? Is there like something that stands out? Man, I would love for REA to offer that. Is there something that sticks out, or not necessarily?
Well, so I mean, my wish list right now is the Baltimore News Ruth. I mean, I think that it's been a number of years since a Baltimore News Ruth has hit the open auction market, and I think the next
Yeah.
one that will sell will rewrite the record books. So that's a card that I would love to have the opportunity to put up for auction. There are some very obscure cards that if I named, probably nobody would ever even recognize. But as a trading card nerd, I think about, oh, I've never handled that. I've never seen that. But T126 Wagners, Ruth rookies, those are the ones that we want to be involved with. Those are the ones that are always special. And any grade, we love the opportunity.
Yeah, I want to ask you, an expert opinion, if you will, on the Baltimore news. You hear two different people kind of talk about it. You sort of get two different opinions about how many of those exist. There's some that claim, there's more the T206 Wagners in existence than that. Yeah, I've heard someone else say they think there's a little bit more than sort of being advertised. Like, where do you like? Obviously it's all speculation, right? No one exactly knows, but I mean, where do you think the pop count is as far as existence on a card like that? Again, it's an opinion. No one knows entirely for sure, but what's your gut, I guess, tell you on a card like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I believe that there are fewer than a dozen Baltimore News Ruths that exist. We can confirm about 10 of them. I believe that there may be other ones that are out there lurking. But then I think back to myself, 10, 12 years ago, we were selling that card for four, five, $600,000, which at the time was just an unheard of amount for a baseball card. And so we were publicizing that. We were getting recognition for how incredible those prices were, and we didn't draw any new ones out. So that's not to say that it can't happen. We've seen obviously instances like the Black Swamp find where the pop counts are rewritten, and the Lucky Seven find with the Ty Cobb back for the T206. But I'm of the opinion that there's 5 or 6 times as many T206 Wagners as Baltimore News Ruths. That being said, the Wagner benefits from the prestige and the allure and the folklore and the notoriety, because of how well known it is, that the Baltimore News Ruth just doesn't have, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you make a great point. That's exactly what it is. It's I mean, the Wagner's a card that even people maybe not in the hobby see and kind of know that it's a significant item,
Yeah.
where maybe the Ruth is just doesn't have that familiarity. But I think, like you said, I think if there's going to be a new record holder, it may be a Baltimore News Ruth that does it, and hopefully it's REA that's handling that and gets it done. So I appreciate you giving some time, sharing some of your insight with the listeners today, Brian. I give all the guests, take as much time as you need. Give out website where people can see what you guys are doing, bid, social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we're available on all the major social media channels. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We are always previewing upcoming auction items. We're showing new finds. We're showing some behind the scenes stuff. So I think anybody that's into the hobby and kind of seeing how auctions are built would get a lot of enjoyment and entertainment out of following our social channels. Um, Right now, we're working on closing out that February auction, like we spoke about earlier. That closes Sunday night at 9 p.m. So anyone that wants to pop on the website, which is robertedwardauctions.com, they can check out the 2,500 plus items in February. They can stay up to date on what's coming down the pipe for March, and you can get a good spot in line for the big blockbuster spring catalog auction. So that's an auction that we're very excited about. We've got some absolutely incredible highlights in already. We've got 5, 6, 7 figure cards already lined up for that auction. And we're putting out a full color catalog. So 700 page catalog for that auction. So anyone that wants to go to our website, it's robertedwardauctions.com. You can bid and view any of the auctions. You can sign up for email. You can sign up for a catalog, and all that's free of charge. So lots of opportunities to bid, lots of opportunities to consign too. If you've got anything that you want to sell, we're happy to discuss it with you. We have a lot of opportunities to sell it quick. We have a lot of opportunities to sell it in one of our catalog auctions if it's a good fit. So reach out however you want: social media, email, phone call, snail mail. We'll be happy to work with you.
Well, Brian, once again, thank you for some of your time and talking about chopping up a little of the hobby and the auction world. Continued success.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much, John.
Thank you.